Hotel World. This your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Pooh, aka the Chosen Few, aka the Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die. Hotel, cheers to that. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about how Christianity came to the Congo and how Christianity effectively destroyed the royal bloodline of the kings in that region. This subject is kind of personal for me because when I did my DNA test, I found out that the majority of my DNA tied me back to the ancient kingdom of Congo. So I bought this book right here doing research on the area where I found out my ancestors came from. A report of the kingdom of Congo and of the surrounding countries. Now this is going to document how Christianity came to the Congo in around 1491 and the events that happened after that that ultimately ended in Christianity destabilizing the region and effectively destroying the royal bloodline that had existed in that region for countless generations. Now, this is the type of book I would love to go over in full one day, but right now we're just going to be dealing with the specific aspect of it, just about how Christianity came and what was the results of Christianity coming. So we're going to go to chapter 2 of the origin of Christianity in Congo and in what manner the Portuguese acquired the trade of that country. Now, this is from an actual eyewitness account. A Portuguese individual had went and lived in the Congo for around 12 years, and he made an account of the area, of the customs, how the landmass looked, and he was there when these Portuguese actually showed up, when these Christian missionaries and priests showed up, and he told the story of what happened. So he says, King Dom João II, wishing to discover the East Indies, sent several ships along the coast of Africa, which, having found the Cape Verde Islands and the island of St. Thomas, and running all along that coast, reached the river Zaire, already spoken of, where the natives proved friendly and civil and did good trade with them. Now, King Dom João II was the king of Portugal at that time, and he's saying how at that time we know that a lot of European nations were sending out exploratory ships all over the world. You know, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue on behalf of King Ferdinand and Isabella. They were coming to the New World, and this is talking about in 1491 how the King of Portugal had sent ships to East Africa, and they were traveling into Central Africa to explore these lands that they had never been to. Okay. Later, he sent other vessels also to traffic with Congo, and finding the merchandise open and profitable, and the people amicable, several Portuguese remained there to learn the language and to trade, amongst whom was a priest from Mesa. So he sent ships to find individuals to trade with. They located the kingdom of Congo, which they had never known before. They found the people amicable, nice, friendly, and willing to trade with them. So some Portuguese stayed back when the ships went back to Portugal, right? Some of the Portuguese stayed behind to learn the language so that they could better do trade, but they also left priests behind as well. The Portuguese, meeting with the Lord of Sogno, uncle of the king, a courteous man, who at that time lived at the port of Praza, which is at the mouth of Zaire, were looked upon and reverenced by him almost like gods come down to live on the earth. But the Portuguese told him they were men like himself and Christians, and seeing themselves so much esteemed by the people, the priest and the rest began to reason with the prince about the Christian faith and to show the errors of paganism, and by little and little to teach him our religion, so that the prince, being much pleased with what the Portuguese told him, became a convert. So the kingdom of Congo was ruled in a certain way. You had the ultimate king who lived in the heart of the Congo, right? and they had surrounding counties around that which were ruled by the empire of the Congo. And there were rulers that they called mani, right, or lords or governors of certain regions who ultimately answered to the king. Now, what the Portuguese priest did, he found this ruler in one of these surrounding counties or countries that was within the empire of the Kingdom of Congo, and this guy was actually the uncle of the king. So the priest immediately began to try to convert him and to teach him that his way of life was paganism. Now, I want to show you something. Did you notice how he said that, oh, the Congo esteemed these Portuguese people and these priests of the Christian faith as God? You're going to see that as a reoccurring theme. Everywhere that these Christians went, they always tried to say that the indigenous people saw them as some type of God, right? Now, maybe that's true, or maybe it's a complete bullshit, right? Because they're saying that, oh, the people in Congo saw the Christians as God. When you read how the Aztecs were interacted with by the Spaniards say, oh, the Aztecs saw them as gods. When Christopher Columbus got to those islands like Hispaniola, where or the Caribbean islands, when they got there, everybody that they encountered perceived them as gods. They always claimed that the indigenous people saw them as gods, right? And they immediately start trying to convince the people that their beliefs are paganism, right? And that the Christian faith is the way to go. Okay? So it's odd that you would have to teach them that their way of life is paganism in order to get them to accept your way of life. You automatically demonize these people's way of life and brainwash them into believing that they are pagans. They are only pagans from your perspective. Actually, you are the actual pagan, right? You are the pagan, but you automatically see, you're going to do trade with these people, but you automatically want to teach them that their way of life is wrong and that they should attain your way of life. They use this to conquer. People convert you to conquer you. But I'm passionate about this because it aggravates me, right? It aggravates me that the first thing out of your mouth is that their way of life was pagan and that they need to accept the Christian faith. But I see from reading the story how well, right, so how well that played out for them actually becoming Christian. Did it improve their condition or did it ruin their condition? Actually, it decimated the royal bloodline and destabilized the region, right? A powerful kingdom taken out by your Jesus. It says, in the spirit of truth and devotion, the Prince of Songno went to court to tell the king of the doctrine of the Christian Portuguese and to encourage him to receive the Christian faith. Then the king sent for the priest to court that he might hear for himself what the prince had told him. And he also, when he had heard, expressed his wish to become a Christian. At this time, those vessels returned to Portugal, by which the king of Congo sent petitions to King Dom João II of Portugal, begging for priests to be sent him to propagate Christianity. And the priest wrote at length also, by request of the king, giving full information of all that had occurred. So the king sent him priests, ornaments for the churches, crosses, images, and everything else necessary for service. So the uncle got converted to Christianity and he believed in Christianity. The uncle took it to his nephew, the king, right? Because they understand if they can only convert the powerful people, then the subjects will be forced to convert because the individual in power has taken on a new faith. They will always try to go for the people in power. Understand that. And so what happened was the king, being convinced by his uncle of this new Christian faith, right? They requested that the Portuguese send more priests, right? Send them crosses, send them vessels, send them images of the saints, and send them all of the bells and whistles that go along with Christianity. So first you tell them that what they're doing is paganism, right? What they're doing is idol worship. What they're doing is going to get them sent to hell, right? So we need to get rid of these pagan traditions, right? Get rid of these idols and these images that are sacred to you, right? And we need to replace these with crosses, images of the saints, and vessels sacred to Catholic Christianity as expressed by the Portuguese. Right? Their images are pagan, your images are holy. And they went for it, unfortunately. So what ended up happening was the king eventually decided to get baptized, and they decided to build a church that they could baptize him in. But what happened also was that everybody in the kingdom was not so receptive to this new faith. And we're going to see that even the king ultimately had his doubts. Yeah, of course, he became a Christian, he became baptized, but he started to have his doubts. So let's go a little further and let's see what he says. At last, the ships arrived with the expected means, which was in the year 1491 of our era, and anchored at the mouth of Zaire. The Prince of Songno, with demonstrations of great joy, met with them all his followers, and saluted and took them to his own house. The next day, that prince, by advice of the priests who had remained there, began to build a church of trunks and boughs of trees, which he, in person, with his servants, went to the wood to cut down, and covered with them a site for a church, in which were reared 3 altars, in honor of the most holy Trinity, and where he was baptized with his infant son, calling himself Emmanuel, the name of our Savior, and his son Antonio, after the patron saint of Lisbon. So we see that this Prince of Songno, uncle to the king, convinced the king to get converted. And they automatically started building the church in honor of the most holy Trinity, their Christian doctrine, right? This guy, this Congolese guy, gets baptized, takes on the name of Emmanuel, right? And he names his son after a patron saint of Lisbon, a place he's never been, an individual that he knows nothing about. But you see immediately that once they start converting these people, they start manipulating them to take on names that have significance to them. And it's curious why didn't any of the Portuguese priests take on any of the names that the Congolese people named themselves? Because they use conversion as a means of conquering you. They use conversion as a means of conquering you. Religion is a cultural incubator, right? Religion dictates how you think. It dictates how you act. And it dictates how you think. And it dictates what's important to you. So when an individual can convert you to their religion, they can ultimately convert you to their culture. And if they are seen as higher than you in status in that culture, you have now acquiesced that they are greater than you. And you see this because he left the names of his ancestors and he took on the names of this Christian faith, and he made his son take on the name of a saint of this new Christian faith. Symbolically, you understand his mind state is that these names are greater than the names of my ancestors. It's not about the conversion to the faith. They already had a faith. They already had a belief. But they use this conversion as a means to conquer. Right? That's what you have to understand. Okay? He goes on to say, let's skip that. Okay, after this, all the Portuguese went to the court to baptize the king, who expressed a fervent desire for that right, and the Prince of Songno ordered many of his own nobles to attend them with trumpets and singing and other honors. He also commanded the people to provide victuals along the roads for their use. So when the king wanted to get baptized, like I already mentioned, they built a church, right? And they sent back to Portugal for crosses, images of saints, more priests to come teach them the doctrine. And so when they came back, the king pulled out all the stops. And on the road from where the boat docked to where they were building the church and where the king was going to be baptized, they laden the road with all types of fanfare. People crowded the streets. They wanted to see these Christians. They wanted to see these people who was bringing what they thought at the time was this new fabulous faith. And they gave these people all the respect and honor in the world. And I'm laying that down because in another video, when we go deeper into this, you're going to see exactly how these Christians treated them after they treated them with so much honor and respect. So much honor and respect that they named themselves after these Portuguese. And they named themselves after these Catholic saints. Even after they acquiesced totally. In a later video, I'm going to show you the thanks that they got. And I'm going to show you how this Christianity and this Jesus destroyed the royal bloodline that has stood strong for many, many, many generations. He says, so great was the multitude who ran to see the Portuguese Christians that it seemed as if the whole country was covered with people, who loaded them with kindnesses, singing and making sounds with cymbals and trumpets and other instruments of the country. And it is pleasant to add that for 150 miles between the sea coast and San Salvador, the roads were all clean and swept, and abundantly furnished with food and other provisions for the Portuguese. So he's showing you what I was just explaining, that they fed them along the way, they sung to them, they cleaned the roads so they could walk on clean roads, and they held these people up high, right? Because they had already been manipulated to believe that these people were bringing some kind of connection to God that they didn't already have. They convinced them that, oh, you're a pagan, you're going to hell, your gods are fake, your gods are real, our gods are real, and guess what? We got the divine connection to that God. So if you denounce your gods, if you denounce your ways as paganism, and you go through us, right, then we can teach you all about God, and we can teach you everything that God represents. So they're already conquered mentally, and they're accepting that these people are better than them, and that these people have a connection to God that they don't have. And I guess apparently their ancestors have been going to hell for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and they just been waiting on the Portuguese to come. But we're going to see exactly what the Portuguese thought about them. Okay, let's go to this part. But the devil, who never ceases to mar good works, so discord and plots and hindrances arose amongst this group of the Christian faith, which threatened, by planting the cross and the religion of the gospel, to destroy the devil's power in this kingdom. For the Anziki and also the people of Anzincana, living on both sides of the river Zaire, from the falls before spoken of, and on towards the lake belonging to the king of Congo, began at this time to rebel. So after the king got converted and he started converting other people and other nobles, individuals in other areas, they started to rebel. They didn't want any parts of this Christian faith because they seen it for what it was. And so how this author, since he's a Portuguese, since he's a Christian, he's saying that, oh, that's the devil, right? Now these people are devils because they want to preserve their way of life. They're the devil because they want to preserve their way of life. But you are coming from a unknown land to tell them that everything that they have ever held dear, to throw it in the trash, it's no good, it's devil worship, it's paganism, it's idolatry. What you need to do is throw that shit away, bring in some crosses, put up some images of the saints, change your names to these Portuguese and Christian names, and you need to honor the Pope, you need to honor Catholicism, you need to honor the king in Portugal, right? And you need to honor Christianity. And everything that you got going on, it's just pagan and heathen and wicked anyway. And he called these people devils because they wanted to preserve their way of life. But obviously, they wanted to preserve their way of life because they was trying to take it all over the world and convert everybody. So it's okay for you to preserve your way of life. But when the people in the Congo tried to preserve their way of life, they're automatically, they're devils. The arrogance, man. Think about that, the arrogance. You can believe what you want to believe. But to tell somebody else that they're a devil because they don't want to accept it. So people in the region began to revolt. People in the region began to rebel. They wanted no parts of it, right? So he says, now this great river, being restrained by these falls, is greatly swollen there, and expands into a large and deep channel, from whose widest part rise large and small islands, one of which contains about 30,000 souls. In these islands and in the places adjoining the river, the people rose and turned against the government of the king, killing the governors sent by him, so that during this rebellion the spread of Christianity was interrupted. The king then sent his eldest son, named Manifundi, who was governor of that region, to quell the rebellion. But it being necessary for the king to go in person as the tumult increased, he wished at once to be baptized. And so the work of the stone church ceased, and one of wood was hastily raised. So I want you to think about something. Think about something. As soon as the Portuguese came, and as soon as the Portuguese started converting people, immediate rebellion, immediate revolt. They started battling each other. They started fighting each other, right? Like it was almost like an immediate civil war, because you got one group saying that everything that you've ever believed, throw it in the trash. And they're making them seem like they're devils and they're evil because they're trying to preserve their ancient ways, right? But think about it. If these Christians, if these are real Christians, they paint this picture as if these Christians and these missionaries that went to the Congo were just loving people who just wanted to spread the message of Jesus Christ. And they're all about life and all about living peacefully, right? They're all about right from wrong. They're all about saving souls. But as soon as they get there, right, with their demonic message, right, everything starts going to hell immediately. Came with them. They had a thriving kingdom. When the Portuguese and the priests came and started trying to convert everybody, mothers fighting against sons, sons fighting against fathers, brothers fighting against brothers. Everything started destabilizing the minute they got there. But the Congolese people are the devils. I don't see any of the Congolese going to Portugal and trying to force the Portugal to worship and honor the deities that was worshipped in the Congo. I see the Portuguese going into the Congo trying to convert them. So who is responsible for the confusion? It has to be the Portuguese Christians. And if they were really good, loving, kind-hearted people, they would say, oh, well, you know what? This is not the message of Jesus. Let's just leave it alone. We won't try to convert anybody. We're just going to trade. Y'all can have whatever religion y'all want, and we're just going to do our own thing because we're non-violent. That ain't what they did. That ain't what they did. They were fully prepared for war to break out in order for forced conversions to take place. Right? You got to see these so-called Christian missionaries in the Congo for what they really were. And I'm not badgering anybody's religion. I'm just telling you the history. And if the history sounds bad, blame the Portuguese Christians. Don't blame me. Don't blame me for reading it. Okay? So rebellion starts out immediately. Right? Immediately. So it goes on to say, together with the Portuguese, the king in person gave orders how it was to be built, the church. And within it, he received the rite of holy baptism, taking the name of Dom João, and the queen the name of Lenora, after the king and queen of Portugal, and that church was dedicated to the Savior. So now they build a church, they dedicate it to a Savior that they've never heard of. They know nothing about this Jesus, right? The king of Congo, from a divine bloodline, holy bloodline, changes his name to the name of the king of Portugal. That's telling. And his wife changes her name to the name of the queen of the king in Portugal. That's very telling, right? Why do you think the king in Portugal didn't change his name to the name of the king of the Congo? If you would have told him to do that, he would have spit in your face, kicked him out of the court. And if you would have tried to force him to convert, he would have cut your head off. He would have cut your head off because he understands, hey, they're not better than us. We better than them. If anybody is going to change their name, they're going to change their name to our names. And so that's how the mentality goes. I told you, religion is a cultural incubator. It wasn't enough. Think about it. It wasn't enough that, oh, we're just going to convert to the Christian faith. But the minute you convert to the Christian faith, you immediately convert to the Christian culture, right? And so now, in his own mind, these Christians, their God, their kings are better. This man runs his own kingdom, his own empire. And as soon as he calls the shots. As soon as he takes on this Christian religion, boom, they got him. He mentally stuck. He mentally stuck. And you see that in the express that he changed his name and called himself King Dom João. Dom João. He named himself after the king of Portugal, automatically acquiescing that this guy's more powerful than him. Why take on this guy's name? Because religion is a cultural incubator. And when you allow someone to trick you into taking their religion, they got you. They got you. You may not even know that they got you, but they got you. You may not even know it, but they got you, right? And you gotta break those chains. And we're gonna see that the king tried to break those chains, but it was too late. So let's see. Let's go here. On arrival of the king, the enemy submitted. So the king actually wanted to go in person to put down the rebellion, his subjects that were rebelling against Christianity. Like I told you, it was some infighting. So the king had to go put down the rebellion, but he wanted to get baptized first. So he got baptized, and he went out to put down the rebellion. As soon as the subjects saw the king, they gave up fighting because this is their king. On arrival of the king, the enemy submitted, and the king returned in triumph to the city of Congo, accompanied by his son, whom soon also became a Christian, taking the name of Alfonso, and the prince of Portugal, and with him many noblemen and cavaliers and other subjects of his province embraced Christianity. So now the king changed his name, his wife changed her name. Now his eldest son take on the name Alfonso after the priest in Portugal. Can you see how the religion brainwashed him? Not the name of his ancestors, the name of a man in Portugal he never met. And this brainwashing was facilitated by the Christian faith. It just is what it is. Now the enemy of the Christian faith, still pursuing his wicked efforts to impede the spread of Christianity, and seeing he had gained nothing towards it by the war, put it into the mind of the second son of the king not to agree to the new religion which his father, mother, brother, and many of the nobles embraced. Thus he sowed tares in his heart and in those of other nobles who favored his views, and who were more inclined to the vices of the flesh than to any virtue, being opposed to the gospel command now begun to be preached, that a man shall have but one wife, which law to these people, accustomed to take as many wives as they pleased, was more difficult to accept than any other. So what they're saying is the king converted, his wife converted, his eldest son converted. Now his second son, Pango, who was a governor over one of the regions, he agreed with the rebellion. And he was like, look, man, you got to be able to see what this Christianity is doing in the region. I'm not going to forsake the gods of my ancestors. I'm not going to forsake the culture of my ancestors. He refused. He refused, and he joined the rebellion, right? And so how this guy described it is like, now he got to be a devil too, because he's saying, I want to do what grandpa did. I want to do what great-great-grandpa did. I don't want to take on a Christian name. I don't want to agree with this new faith. I see the division that is already causing. Who are you? You the Portuguese. Who the hell is the Pope? Who the hell is the Pope? Who the hell are these priests? They regular guys. Why would I follow them? My father's a king. Why am I worried about the king in Portugal? So now you see a split in the household, right? And this is going to eventually lead to the ultimate destruction and death of the royal bloodline. Because you had the king, the queen who converted, the eldest son who converted and changed his name to Alfonso. Then you had the second son, Pango, who refused to convert. And he did everything in his power to convince his father to abandon the Christian religion, right? Go back to the ways of the ancestors and take back the strength of the kingdom, because he saw him acquiescing to these Portuguese and to these Christians. So he says, thus the two brothers were separated, each maintaining his own cause. So now, not only did they divide the nation, these Christians, these priests, they've divided the house. They've divided the house. If it wasn't for Christianity, of course, these two brothers may have fought about the throne if the youngest one wanted the throne. You know, people do that. But what I'm saying is they wouldn't have been divided on ideological basis. Their division, regardless of what it may have been called, because people say, oh, family fight all the time. That's what they'll say. But I don't want to talk about what families fight all the time about. I want to talk about what this family fought about. It was the Portuguese priest and the Christians who divided the family. They were divided specifically by the doctrine that the Portuguese brought. So this is what divided the royal house. This is what caused the rebellion and the wars. This is what caused the problems, right? It just is what it is. Christianity in the Congo and the destruction of the royal bloodline. The eldest, Dom Alfonso, defended the Christian faith with great zeal, sweeping away all the idols from his province. But his brother, who was called Pango, being governor of that province, opposed him so far as to enlist most of the nobles on his side, amongst them being some who had already been baptized, and whose wives, seeing themselves separated from their lords on account of Christian laws, spoke evil of the new religion, and spread snares around Dom Alfonso, trying to get rid of him and to stop the Christian faith being spread abroad. So you see, when the family spread, the divisiveness got further. And what they're explaining is some individuals had more than one wife. So when Christianity came, they was like, oh, you can only have one wife. So individuals who got baptized and became Christian, they left their multiple wives out in the cold and just kept one. So those wives and their children being abandoned, basically, they joined the cause to dismantle the Christian faith. Okay? And so things just got worse, right? Things just got worse. And I want to show you something, right? Before we move on, I'm going to go back. I'm going to read this again. I don't want you to miss this point. He says, the eldest son, Dom Alfonso, defending the Christian faith with great zeal, sweeping away all the idols of his province. So one of the things that Dom Alfonso did in the province that he was running on behalf of his father, the king, he got rid of all the idols. He got rid of all the things that was sacred to their ancestral religion, right? But then when you go back a little bit, remember when I read this? Then the king sent for the priest to court that he might hear from himself what the prince had told him, and he also, when he had heard, expressed his wish to become a Christian. At this time, those vessels returned to Portugal, by which the king of Congo sent petitions to King Dom João II of Portugal, begging for priests to be sent to him to propagate Christianity. And the priest wrote at length also, by request of the king, giving full information of all that had occurred. So the king sent him priests, ornaments for their churches, crosses, images, and everything else necessary for such service. So Dom Alfonso thought it was okay to get rid of what he was calling idols of his ancestors, but he was more than willing to receive from the Christians ornaments for their churches, crosses, images, and everything necessary for such service. So you throw away what they are telling you is the idols of your ancestors, and you replace it with Christian idols? You replace it with crosses? You replace it with images of the saints? You throw away grandmama picture and you put up the picture of a saint? This is insane. But we're going to see exactly what happened. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to end part 1 and I'm going to bring it right back in part 2. Make sure you look on my page. Make sure you find part 2 because I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish this story, right? So for right now, the end of the part 1, this your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka the Chosen Few, aka the real bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die. Hotel, peace. I'm out. Click on video 2. You want to see how this ends.